This is day 700 of the Arukh HaShulchan Yomi. If you'd like to sponsor an upcoming share of the Arukh HaShulchan Yomi or more, please contact me directly. It'd be greatly appreciated. Today we're doing some Taf Lamed Ches, Sifei, Taf Lamed Ches, Sifei, Hey Hey. Now we're still about mice. Hey, Nicholas Achbar Bais, with your beef. A mouse enters the house and has a loaf in its mouth. How can we know Achbar Shil? Tell me, we saw a mouse which then left with a loaf in its mouth. Say it's the same one who went in and came out. You don't have to check. First one was black and the second one is white. So some other way you recognize it's not the same mouse. Certainly, though, you have to check. We don't assume that this mouse dropped it from his mouth and this other mouse picked it up. As we've said several times already, a case of doubt does not help to remove a definite problem. Blow now, like this. Doubtful resolution does not solve a definite problem. Probably be more succinct, but that's the point. Now this, but even if a mouse went in with a loaf in his mouth, and then a weasel came out, so I guess chulda here means a weasel, not a mole. But again, I'm not sure. The has a loaf in its mouth. The assumption is that the mouse is afraid because of the mole. And she tossed it and the chulda took it. Nevertheless, we don't assume that it's the same one. Because then we should have seen the mouse in the mouth of the chulda. So if you see a chulda coming out with a mouse and a loaf in its mouth, ain't you don't have to check. This same loaf which was in the mouth. Okay, so Rambam Perek Beis in Gimel on Shab. Vav yesh lavin hakol elain bias b'Gemara. All these are issues in the Gemara. Ubishlam akod mosa omer Gemara Gemara Shas. In the previous case, the Gemara says intim tzilomer. The shitas hagoinim, and the goinim's principle is the kol imtim tzilomer have a kipshitusa. The all imtim tzilomers. So this, that. The first ones until the last one are all assumed to be the halacha. The last one is the one which remains in doubt. So the last case, the last case of I'm sorry, the lines there. Last halacha remains a teku. The question of the mouth and the mouse and the loaf in the mouth of the chulda remains a teku. So how did the Rambam paskin immediately? That we assume it's the right one. Because the take the Rabbanon, excuse me, and jump. The Rambam Mishnah writes that every teku which has to do with the rabbinic halacha is the kula. We should beat the chometz. Unless you talk about therefore we know about the chometz. Rambam didn't have to explain this. But is grading the halacha according to the assumption which we have that a person who checks has to also nullify. The Tur also writes, all these are questions in the Gemara. If you nullify, we go with kula. If you didn't nullify, we go with chumrah. He doesn't hold that principle going that the first questions were resolved, but therefore he says that in all the questions, we only go with kula if you are mavata. The Rambam follows Shitas Hagoinim, and we go in the first questions always the kula. We can't because we consider the issues to have been resolved. Now it says brackets the kulam shoving the dina. So it's not clear according to Lashon and Rambam how that works out. Okay, as it may. Zayin kasav Rambam nachash nichnas lechol. A snake entered a hole. Will pass the even has a loaf in its mouth. You don't have to bring a snake charmer to remove it. By the time they came, obviously snake charmers would not work through magic. They work with the expertise. Batan came in the circle of hotels. Since you have to spend money to hire a snake charmer, lo rabban not required to do so. Because chametz, I mean, even though we say by because chametz, a person wants to do the mitzvah and spend the money for it, chametz. That's very definitely as chametz. About bekan harei sofek, harei sofek here it's a doubt. The shema yotziana and achash lechutz. Maybe the snakes will remove it. Oh, Yochana, it's going to eat it. Gamzu by Luivshla. Also, this is a question which is not resolved. So, Gankin, the Mari Bito, have it Rabbanan. You have to say, therefore, it's like case we did Bito, and it remains in the Rabbanan, Svekel Kula, and therefore we can be lenient. Ches, Otkos of Kazayas Chametz. A Kazayas of Chametz Shmei Kora, which is in the loft, and up in the air. Chaya, which you can't normally get down. Normally, you have to bring a ladder to get it down. Mishabura says that if it's less than kazayis, you don't have to bring a ladder and take it down. And it's enough to be mevatel it, and that some people are unclear about that. But the less than kazayis does not require to take it down. But Arukh HaShulchan clearly says specifically kazayis. So he says, why have to bring the ladder? It's going to fall down from that loft. The chametz is in a pit. So you don't have to bring it up. But then you are going to be mabash negated in your heart, and that's sufficient. I'm going to show end quote from the Rambam. According to our principle, which you mentioned, according to our version, according to the principle of the Goinim, that every intimate Tzilomar is considered to be resolved. So by the pit, you have to also bring it up. The maybe sometimes you can go down to the pit and come to eat it. So therefore, that would be considered to be a pshitusa v'chumra. The Rama gives us this. Rama is a different version. But that's in the Magi Mishnah. Gives the same okay. So the question then, according to the base says, why are you not being down? There are according to argue, so you do have to go down and get it. Nearly the Bezesa Machal Tur. So this relies on the Tur. That Tur Kosuk Dram B'Shmei Kora the Zel Safek Abid Safek. He wrote it even up in the loft. It's a doubtful case. Vital ain't so and when you nullify, you don't have to bring it down. The coach came before and leave the board. Even though in the loft he was marking like the Rambam. Come by board, nevertheless in the pit, the Tur. Filu figures the same. So even according to our version, you don't have to bring it up. No, saying they become wait as a cocoa board. The Tur, according to Torah field figures, so saying even according to our Girsa, which seems to be Machmir, since he doesn't hold that Pshitusa is that calling to Tzilom or Pshitusa, that means Tzilom is going to be resolved according to the Svara mentioned there. So therefore, he holds that we can go Lakula. It's a Loloso. In Yachudar shows the Rambam, so the Shulchan Aruch left it halacha as stated in the Rambam. Again, as long as you're Mevatel. Test. V'dad is there to shoot on the fire kan Mevatlo. Believe over V'dad, that's Rambam had to explain here that you're Mevatlo in your heart, that suffices. And B'chol Dim, she's brought to Bitul Davka. And all the others you mentioned, you have to specifically be Mevatel, which Kosu B'Shem HaMakid, Mishnah, Sivav. Ray says you have to need bittul, right? We wrote the name Magid Mishnah before. We said Magid Mishnah when we learned Sivav. So here's the reason why it has to specify here that because here it's about you saw the chametz after you already checked. Shenichnas achbar, the mouth came in. You already once. So therefore, you need to have a specified. You have to specify. You have to specify bdika in those cases. Avokan, my b'shas bdika. Okay, so in hey ches, that's what I'm saying. In vav is talking about where it happened after bdika. That's where I'm have to specify bitul. In ches, and that's why the I guess the Magid Mishnah is difficult. How why doesn't he assume? No, second. No, that's what Ram didn't have to mention Bittul. Sorry. And Steve about the Ram didn't have to mention Bittul because he was running Bavato. He saw the mouse after Bdika. and go in and see where it's battle yesterday. So everybody said to be battle again. But here, we're talking about the Shmei Korah, or the bor. So Rambam has to specify that you're mevatel it, because this is at the time B'dika. Rambam tells you don't have to check. So you can lie in the bittul, which you're about to make after the checking. Right? So as he says, Mishum Ma'ir L'Achar B'dika. Shechnas Baruch Bar Bittul Achar B'dika. Ready mevatel. Avokan Ma'ir B'Shasdik. When here it's about when you're being baidik, when you have to be baidik. So mevatel Libo. Times of notify in your heart. And you line the bittul which is going to make after the bedika. You having keep going to have in mind also this loaf. For Ravid Basogas Kasab, Gamkan Mailach Abdika Bediko. Ravid says no, it's talking also after bedika and bittul. Chagmatzon, then you found it in the loft or in the pit. I was shas bedika b'choyim b'choyim. So at the time you're checking, no, you can't rely on anything. You have to go up and get it, or go down and get it. This is where like you hit it in the bar. The time of the machine came to the names that Itmar B'chal the Arukh HaShulchan surmises that the Rabbi puts it this way because it's lumped together with halachas of mice. We assume it is the same parameters. He says brackets there about the Mishnah Tamal and Rabbi, then Asi Shapir Baduk. The Mishnah is astonishing Rabbi, but this must be the pshat in Rabbi. Never bear mayim havia chametz kamavur. If it fell into a well, Kor Chaim says it's considered to be like a mavur, like it's eradicated. It's interesting. I don't think it seems that the Arukh HaShulchan does not hold the chumrah if he says it's tam, that you have to take all like the Yerushalmis do and other people, that they take all the water for Pesach from before Pesach into a big tin vat, because the cheshish for bread in the Kinneret. Although nowadays Israel's water usually doesn't come from the Kinneret, so nowadays the halacha would be perhaps different. Their cheshish not chametz not patel be'elef, so therefore they take all the water from before Pesach. But here it sounds like the Arukh HaShulchan and the Kol Chaim are not concerned that there might be this chametz might be in the water on Pesach, and you may still be taking from your well on Pesach with that chametz in it. Okay, so we should be examined further. Tough test. If you checked and you not find the loaves that you left. Aleph. In front of Panenu. Tesha Tzivurim Shel Matzah. They're in front of us 10 piles of matzah and one of chametz. But Achbar Panenu, and a mouse came in front of us. And he took took a loaf from one of these piles. Came went to the house and already checked. We don't know if he took chametz or matzah. So you have to go back and check the house. Or not the matzah means leave dok. Did he take chametz and you have to go back and check the house? Or not the matzah into the dog? Did he take matzah? You don't have to check. Even though most of the piles are matzah, lost in the besam ruba. Chayav leave dok. You can't follow the road and you must check. Because the mouse went and took from the static location. In any static location, we don't follow the majority. We say it's like 50-50 suffix. But if the loaf was removed from that place where it was, from the place where the piles were, from that, and the mouse took it from the place where it had rolled or fallen, or whatever the case may be, and so you don't have to check those. Inside Ruba, we follow the majority. It's like the famous halacha of 9 stores selling treif and one kosher, or vice versa. And this concept of kavua, that in a static area we don't follow majority, this is Xera, which many people have spent so much ink trying to fully grasp. It's hard to grasp, therefore we're not going to get into it today. Okay, so that's what I'm saying about Tesis. Ain't Zelek Shlobito. But Tesis told it's only when he didn't nullify. The Raisa when it's the Raisa. Shlobito, if you did nullify, the Rabbanan, since it's the Rabbanan, it came to have a Mechza, and that made, since Kavua is like 50-50, it's making the Rabbanan Kula, it says, Soviet Rabbanan, we go to Kula, but that's a right break based in you. Sabatur, right? And Sham. All these posts can go that way. Yearly, according to this, would seem to be that few tations for chametz. If you have 9 piles of chametz, and only one pile matzah kosher. Where we saw the mouse taking something from those piles. It goes into a checked house. Answer b'dika k'shebita. You don't need to call another b'dika. That's what we did bittul. Kavura meaning ben l'chuma come for your there sham. Kavura works both l'chuma and l'kula to make it a case where you can rely on a subject rabban l'kula. The Bali Taisus that's mom Kasfu, the right a field below Bito ain't got Kavo Cloudy and Hatzuk Bedika. So you say Achbar Khera Baduk. He said in this case, it's not at all like the case of the 9 butcher stores, and therefore there's no Kavo here to require Bedika when the mouse entered a already checked room. It's not like the 9 stores. There's no assumption of heter. There's the meat which is taken from a butcher store and found in the middle of the street. You have no. You need the rove in order to say it's mutter. Assuming that 10 stores showing 9 stores selling kosher and 1 selling treif. You need a rove to say it's kosher. There's no cheskas heter which preceded that finding the meat. But room to check. You can cheskas heter. There's cheskas on the room that it's mutter. And cheskas b'dika that it was checked already. So they said this halacha can't be talking about b'dika. It's got to be talking about whether you can eat this loaf, which doesn't have a cheskas heter. The other post can say that it's talking about b'dika, not about achilo, not about eating. They obviously hold that, it says Arukh HaShulchan, that by kavua we don't follow chazaka. Just like we don't go after which pile is closest. In other words, if we're not going to follow the rove majority, which is presumably the ultimate birur, the ultimate clarification what it is, we don't follow the lesser clarifications of chazaka, a prior assumption, or of karov, that assumption that the closest pile is one from which it came. Shatorah, like it's claiming you're there from definite proof. Shatorah goes don't follow by kavua. We don't go after which is whatever's closest. Also, don't follow chazaka as a result. Says the Torah b'chol kavua have a mechza. Mechza it's because of every kavua is 50-50, no matter which way you slice it. Ben Korah, Ben Rachok, whether it's close or far. Ben Sheishem Chazaka, Ben Shem Chazaka, whether it's Chazaka or not. Dal Rambam Perik Beis Pasak Din Zafilu Shabidel. Rambam Paskins that this halacha is true even when you're nullified. And Mr. Bura evidently passing like the Rambam. V'chein Mistimas Dvarav, that seems to be the simple meaning of what he has not specified. Chal Perik Shamayik Shabitel. Because the entire parak in which this is mentioned, it's talking about whether he did bittul. Because the Magmisha Shemer Tam, the Magmisha writes the name of the road. The reason is Chachamim's entire institution of B'dikas Chametz came on account of doubtful doubts. Therefore, this suffix is more severe than normal sfekos to Rabbanon which go to Kula. Ayin Sham. Even though no doubts that can't applicate in the Gemara. Bachbar Nachash with a mouse or with a snake. She's bar but Simon Koidim. The previous Simon, he killed Ramam Savik, which was Ramam wasn't Mako. In those fakers, he was lenient. Zek Shesh Savik Badin, Vadai, so it's Linan Lakula, Dabdikan Nisham Makama. That's where there's a question in halacha that where you're ready that there we can go lenient. We can be lenient because the checking stands in place. I have a suffix etzema inyan, but a doubt in the actual in the actualities of the case. It's called that the checking was not done properly. It's very difficult svara. As he says, the kavan the abdika here is suffix because your checking is on account of doubt. Im yeshem chametzim lav, since the whole in abdika is to check in a case of doubt. But that yeshem suffix, and here there's a case of suffix which is actually not a suffix in halacha, but a suffix in metzius, which was the suffix of on the very suffix on which Chazal were misakin. Again, let's make that clear. Chazal enacted b'dikas chametz in cases, by definition, where there's a suffix in mitzius. There's a suffix whether there's chametz or not. And therefore, in a case in which there's a suffix, if there's chametz or not, there's still chiyuv b'dika. Suppose halacha, previous halacha about sfeikus not in the mitzius, but in the halacha. What's the halacha about this case or that case? In that case, we can call it kula. And it's very difficult to understand this. But that's what he says. So then Yishem suffix said, Meguvim, Machmir, so that case, Machmir, Mashiach can say it's fake the din as opposed to a suffix in the halacha. Hey, because of two writes, Kikar Katan, it's a small loaf. I feel below Beetle Yesh Local, even without notification. You can make Matil. You can mean Pekel. You mean it. When you shall tell me, town fake faker, we say it ate it. Make a fake faker. Shema, not a matzah. Maybe it took matzah. You need to slow him another chametz. If it took chametz, Shema Chlom, maybe he ate it. Ba'avagav, the Achbar, Shenichnas Achbar, Yotzim Sion Koim, you can't Kikar Katan. The town's fake faker said, in the previous sim, we were not lenient with an account of this fake faker. And Shema Achlo, and maybe it ate it, even if some Lo Achlo, and even if it didn't eat it, Shema Hotzio Zach Barashe, maybe the second mouse took it out. In other words, the case where black one comes in, white one comes out. Why would not say also fake faker? Maybe the first one ate it, and if the first one didn't eat it, maybe this is the second one stolen from him. Same nation, Shnei Fakers Shem Echaru. As both fakers are under the same category. When she's something, this shall come into bias or love. In the abstract, there's something if the comments was left remain in the house or not. Malim Loni Sham Initial Achlo, Mibneshal Tzio. There's a reason matter whether it's because of it eating it, because he removed it. Sof Chad Chasafiku. Now it's just one suffix. Same word close fake faker there, Simukuf Yud. That's explained in the close fake faker, which are very long and elaborate. But where they're not the same fakers. Not Shem Echad. The first suffix is maybe it's not chametz at all. We matzah. In some chametz, and if it's chametz, and if it's chametz, Shem Echalto, and we ate it if I have a fake faker garment. It's absolute fake faker because they are shnei shemos, the two different categories of fakers. Okay, more on fake faker tomorrow.